Hello guys, Kingles here from the Wanpons Armory. Did you know that there are many different type of swords? Yes, there are sharp swords that are made as weapon of war, and of course there are safe practice sword like Hema swords that are nice and flexible that we use for training. And of course the last type of sword that most people glance over are stage combat sword. Like this one right here. They're made to look just as beautiful as the real thing, but safe and very easy to handle. So then if you're doing any drilling or you're using a theatric use, reenactment use, or just if you want to do it for, well, everyday collection and you don't want to hurt yourself, stage combat sword is a really good sword to get into. So right here, this set right here, it's the 15th century Cluny. I think that's how you say it, 15th century Cluny long sword. It is a very specific German guard, I want to say, with these as how to handle. I've always wanted a stage combat sword, especially one that comes with a matching dagger. So this set actually comes it's together. You have to buy it separately, but the styles by and large the same, so I bought them together. And they're being sold as a set right now. So I've always wanted one of these stage combat swords. The main reason why is because I like collecting swords and I like trying different swords out, but at the same time, I don't really want to maintain a lot of sharp swords just because, one, they're not the safest thing to have around, and if you see how I hang my armory, they're literally swords being hung up in the open air. I like to keep my sword bare steel open so that it prevents them from rusting. So it means that if I have a sharp sword lying around, if they drop, that's a no-no. So but I don't always like the look of Hema swords because I find that the look of Hema swords, they tend to very sportification look to it, and there's always a regulation rule set that's imposed onto them, even if they're not. So that detracts them from the look. And now a reenactment sword, you get the best of both worlds. It is a completely safe blade that it is actually rather thick in the edge. This thickness right here, you're getting about 1.5 mm or 2 mm, very thick, and the tip is rounded. Now, oftentimes they round it just enough so then you can't really stab anyone with it, and it's quite pleasant to touch actually. And of course, if you really punch someone in, I'm sure it will go through something. When something travels really fast in one direction, it will go through something eventually. Yes, science. And these blades are quite stiff. Now, of course, they do flex exactly like a real sword, and they're very nice and stiff. So essentially, if I want to use a reenactment blade, which is what this is, technically someone can easily grind a new edge onto it and turn it into a sharp sword. I believe many of these swords inherently are just sharp sword with the edge taken out or with the edge not put on. So they are actual real swords without the edge, and so they become reenactment swords. I actually have a hard time letting this sword go because I really like this. It's a beautiful piece. It behaves exactly like a really nice long sword. It's not light and it has a really good weight to it. I really like it. Like, I can do everything that I want with the sword, but knowing that I'm safe. And because of how beautiful it is, the beautiful, nice ox red blood, and all the wrapping is just so nice, especially when it comes with a little matching dagger. But the problem is, as you all know, I'm quite allergic to longsword, which is quite funny. No, I'm not actually physically allergic to a sword. That's crazy talk right here. It's just that longsword, it's why I like swords, but it's one that it's not my main jam. You know, like when a character just can't really use a weapon, that's kind of me. I'm not really happy using longswords. If you give me a longsword, I would happily use it one-handed, which you really shouldn't, but you totally can, and it's very deadly. So let's go to the Cluny sword itself. I believe the inside core is going to be a nice wood core. Obviously, I haven't taken it apart, and it is leather wrap bound, really beautiful, and has these three beautiful seats right here. And of course, so when you hold it, especially when your finger is being held, they very smartly put it so then the first leather seat actually encompass the first 1 or 2 finger. The next one in the middle, exactly perfectly where your hand should be. And the last one just enough for a second hand. Or you can actually hold it a little bit lower as well. And it's just so comfortable to hold. And I find it very interesting how it is actually a rectangular shape, rectangular. It's still tapered on both sides, rectangular shape handle. It makes it so then when you change guard from standard guard to a thumb grip, it's super easy. I love this kind of guard on handles. And let's going back into the pommel itself. Pommel, it's going to be a steel pommel. I doubt it, it's actually full steel, solid steel. I'm pretty sure. Actually, I don't know. This thing's actually really hefty. So it's a beautiful edge, a little detail on the steel. Sorry, not edge, just detailed. Wheel pommel, quite simple. And at the end, we see that the nut itself, I seriously want to say, the nut is actually threaded. I'm not surprised if I take a like plier to it. I'm not surprised if I can actually untwist this and then actually take the assembly off, because if we see that there is still going to be that little hole right there, and then there is, well, the sword block, and we see that there's no mushrooming on top of the pin. So if you try really hard, I'm pretty sure you can just clamp onto it, unscrew it, and this thing comes right out. So if you decide to pick up this, I'm not surprised if you can take the hilt part and put it onto a feather blade, and that makes it extra fancy. Yes, totally doable. And yes, I do make videos about how people can put swords together, and you can see more of that later on. So getting on to the guard. The guard is really what got me really interested. When I started HEMA, I don't actually know why guards are like this, like especially when we don't do German longsword. And the more I look into it, the more I realize, oh, German longswords look like this. That's kind of cool. So that's why I got this guard, because it was cool and I want to handle one, right? Really thick, absolutely beautiful handguard. I just love this handguard so much. And it has more leather to it with a little bit of a gold embellishment. I'm pretty sure it's just painted gold. I highly doubt it's real, okay guys? There's no way it's gold. And then another roll of the leather. And then at the seat itself, to finish everything off, they have a beautiful black leather washer right here. Now, of course, for many of you who has seen swords that looks like this, it's going to be like, oh, it's a rain guard or it's one of those frog. I thought that's what it was. So when I got this sword itself, I really wished that the throat right here inside is actually hollow, so I can actually slide the scabbard inside it, and that's kind of become like a little lid for the scabbard. That was what's meant to be. It doesn't really do that. It's just a solid block of wood, which I'm okay with, just because now I have more handguard. It's kind of cool. But if it was hollow as well, I would very much happily welcome that, just because now I would have a real, well, weather protective piece of equipment that most weapons don't have. Going to the scabbard, it fits beautifully well. It does not come off. This is such a beautiful piece, and it's just so nice. Comes with a beautiful little tip at the end right there. Of course, I've never worn it outside, so it's still nice and clean. Kind of hard to see, but yeah, nice and clean. Anyways, the red itself do match, of course. The rest of the sword itself is a really beautiful, bright fire engine red. Really cute. I really shouldn't be wearing a red shirt and my favorite maroon sweater, because now you can barely see the sword. Sorry. In any case, I will make sure that my fashion from now on will match the sword I'm showcasing in the opposite way. In any case, or I should just wear all white. Okay, so the blade itself. The blade is a really stiff blade, as I showed you, and it is a very simple, well, diamond section blade. It's just one center ridge right here. There's no follower everywhere, and it goes all the way to the end into a really beautiful tip. Now the thing is that I'm pretty sure these are either very quickly machine pressed or hand forged, because we actually see a bit of rippling on the blade. By rippling is that if we look down the blade itself, we're gonna see there's a lot of little hammer marks, and if you look down along the ridge is by and large straight, but it does do some wavy pattern to it. And we clearly see there is something that went on, something long and kind of dumpy and just kind of bump. So I am not surprised if these blades were cut off from a blank. After that, they just get heated up and then they put it onto power hammer, I think that's what they call it, the iron kiss. There's many names for it, and they just kind of draw the blade out. They just stick a blade in there and just go pam, something like that. I'm pretty sure that's how most of these blades are made. Okay, so This is going to be the longsword itself. Really, really beautiful piece. I actually use this for drilling. Now it's going to be air testing. So then when I want to do any cuts of my own, I would then use this for whatever I need. I stopped using it as well because I don't do German swords, German sources, especially German longswords. When I do have sources, I would then be going to the English or the Italian, and I do find that these little guards to be quite annoying, just because they keep hitting your hand right here. Now I know I shouldn't be doing that, and I'm pretty sure I'm just most likely doing it wrong because I suck at longsword. But you know what? It's just not really my thing. Okay, so getting on to the dagger. The little dagger itself is just a cute little piece. It comes with, of course, a matching wheel pommel with the exact same way how they did the peening sword block. Probably threaded, goes right in. I'm not, once again, not surprised if you can take this whole thing off and put in a sparring blade onto it. The exact same ox blood. This one is of a square. It is a more classic oval shape. Enough for one hand. Cute little cross guard. It's just super, super cute. And of course, it comes out exactly looking like the longsword. Simple, rich, right in the middle. Nice and, well, very, very safe blunt edge, and it doesn't flex. So what happened is that one of these little daggers, it's tremendously good for reenactment where you just want to do a little demonstration, really quick show, or if you want a prolonged period when you're doing light training, okay, very, very light control training, you can for sure use these. The edges are so thick. This edge is actually thicker than most of our HEMA edge, and because it doesn't really flex, there's not a lot of dynamic movement happening on the blade. And because of the dagger is inherently light, it doesn't take that much impact and forces. So if you do want to use this for very, very light training, for shows especially, or for reenactment, I love these things. You can of course do the exact same thing with this blade as well. Carry it out to your run fair. Absolutely show it to your friends, for sure. Use it for light training and light sparring just to feel how it feels. Absolutely. Do not use it for actual practice, okay? You can use it for light drill, light practice, but not actual full force hit. Because I'm pretty sure if you hit someone with this, it is essentially hitting them with a real sword, okay? So, another really interesting thing that this sword could be used for is harnish fighting. Harnish fighting is when we actually start fighting with real armor. As we all know, swords doesn't really do anything to real plate armor. Now I'm talking about 15th, 16th century, okay? Not the earlier stuff with chain, okay? Later on century, when we were getting into plate mail, especially when it's like by the time of King Henry, everything is fully cladded by then, is that if you want to use these, chances of you actually wailing on each other is completely impossible. I mean, not impossible, you can, it's just why. So in any case, what happens is that when you are drawing your longsword out in harnish fighting, you are going to be doing, of course, what we all know is half swording. Very, very common. Putting a sword at the half of the sword, half swording. And this is when you have really good control and you can do a lot of really good binding work and stuff like that, right? Now, the huge benefit on one of these swords compared to a feather is that they are stiff. Very, very stiff. When you are at a half point, one of the most annoying thing you could ever do with a feather is that you're trying to wedge it up to your opponent's armpit to deliver that force. By the time you wedge it up, the feather would bend and it goes and it doesn't lift up the armor as intended that you're supposed to do, and it drives me nuts. If you have a reenactment blade, you can exactly do that perfectly without having to kill your opponent. It's stiff enough that you can use it with any point control and you don't have to worry about your blade tip going. It actually functions how you need it. You are able to use it to do those arm lock and stuff like that, and fully knowing that your training partner is gonna be safe. So aside from this being a reenactment blade, if you want to use it for a harnish fighting sparring blade, if your training partner is okay with it, I don't see why you shouldn't. I think that's actually a pretty good option. So that's what it is. So meaning that with one of these, Cluny sword, this exactly right here, I'm pretty sure deepeeka make this, I can't be sure. Deepeeka has a reputation of making very poor weapon, but those are the earlier century stuff. Earlier by probably before COVID. After COVID, around COVID period, they really amped up their production value. And I find that this is actually one of the better items, and I'm actually quite proud having this thing. It's just, once again, I need to scale down my armory, right? I kind of fit that everything. I wish. But in any case, so this one I'm pretty sure is made by deepeeka. And for a deepeeka weapon, as we all know, it's very, very good entry affordable pricings. If you can see my listing, you notice that this is actually very affordable. Okay, and this gets into a really, really nice, comfortable handling weapon that most deepeeka weapons are known to be absolutely terrible at. But this actually behaves really nicely. It's really, really sharp, really quick, and it swings just fine. Love it. Now for the weighting itself. Okay, so this entire sword weighs about, this sword itself weighs about 1799 grams, so 1800 grams. It's just missing a gram, sorry. This is just the bare sword itself. And for the dagger now, the dagger comes in at 564 grams, which is pretty light. And even for a long sword itself, it is actually quite a nimble weapon. Many long swords of this size, when it's made properly, they go up to 2000 or 2400 grams, which is way too heavy. Getting a measurement tape right inside. So, the time that we've been waiting for, sizing. For a long sword like these, I seriously don't think size really matters. As long as it goes to 36 or 40, it's good enough. And right down to the cross guard. So let's go with, so this, once again, I am measuring from the tip to the, well, let's say the frog. It's going to be roughly around 35 inch. Going down to the handguard, we're getting to 36 inches. And at the base of the blade, it starts to be 2 inches in profile length. And the width itself is like 1/8 of an inch. And then at the very, very tip, it goes down to 1/2 inch as a profile, which is, well, quite narrow. The rest of the handle itself, well, it's a really, really nice long sword handle. So just the handle itself comes to almost, actually, the handle comes to 7.5 inches. From the top of the guard to the bottom of the pommel, it's 10.25 inches. Really, really long thing. This thing is almost 4 feet long. It's quite fantastic. Now the dagger. Alright, dagger itself, just the blade alone. We're coming to, I'm gonna go down to the handguard, okay? That comes at 11.5 inches. It's kind of hard to measure because if you look at it, it kind of rises up a little bit and then goes down. So I'm measuring around to the middle of this line, okay? Not to the point, to the middle line, and it comes to, once again right here, 11.5 inch right there. And the rest of the handle is a 3.5 inch handle with a 2-ish inch pommel. So the whole thing comes to around 5.25 inches, okay? So the entire overall length is 17 inches, okay? So in conclusion, one of these really nice reenactment sword, where exactly do they belong in your everyday training or, well, in your medieval Renaissance geek nerdism? Is they're a fantastic display piece as of its own. It's like it's as nice as a sharp sword, but the safety of well, sparring sword. Essentially, these are blunt weapons, what they are, right? And yes, if you really want, you can still hit fruits and stuff like that. Whatever pleases you with barbed steel. They cannot cut things. And if you ever want to sharpen it, I'm not surprised that they will become sharpened weapon again, because I believe these blunt weapons are just factory produced weapon that does their everyday sharp weapons, and they just don't bother putting an edge onto it, and then it advertises and do something else. So these are now then being reclassified as reenactment weapons. For reenactment use, they would then use them for, obviously, display use, drilling, audience engagement, and of course, some light contact sparring. And these blades, because they're so thick and relatively nice and stiff, very robust, very durable, they became the excellent pairing for a lot of actors or even reenactment use. And they just, well, kind of belongs and eventually make their way in every single one's, well, arsenal, as per se. So if you're in the market for a good light training weapon that is beautiful to display, you're happy to hang around the wall, and it's not just an everyday, well, wall hanger, the 15th century Cluny deepeeka longsword and the matching dagger might be the thing for you. If you have any question, feel free to let me know. You can leave me a comment in the comment sections. Thank you again for always doing that, guys. You can also find me on social media. You can easily find me as Kingless Yanabi on Facebook. Sorry, it's a mouthful, but I'm sure you guys know where I am. So, in that case, signing out for now. If you guys have any questions, let me know. See ya!